Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Sylvia Follett on the line, and she's founder of the Prime Process at Prime Quadrant. Sylvia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about here today. So I definitely want to get into the Prime Process, which you founded, and also talk about Prime Quadrant as well. But before we get into that, let's just start with your background a bit. So how did you get started in business and finance? Like where did all that begin for you?
I had a really sideways entrance into the realm of finance. When I left university in the 1990s, I actually had an opportunity to move to South America, and I helped to start a school which was called the Oasis Institute. And that school is what we would call today like a wellness institute. We were teaching all kinds of modern techniques of therapy, for example, Gestalt therapy or body work. A lot of the therapies that we were teaching were actually originally founded at the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California. And we were such early movers in the wellness space in Argentina that the business caught fire over time. It was a success. It still exists today. And when I decided that it was time for me to return back to my home country, the States, it was 2000. I basically sold my part of the company, moved back home, and decided that I wanted to invest the money from the sale of that business. Now, being 2000, it was really the height of the dot-com bubble. I had never learned anything about investing. I was financially illiterate, and I couldn't tell you the difference between a stock and a bond. So I found that really intimidating. And one of the things that I noticed was that everybody felt like a salesperson that I talked to. They didn't feel like advisors. They felt like salespeople. And that in and of itself made me feel a little bit hesitant and suspicious of the industry. And so that's how I decided that I myself would get involved and learn how to become an investor.
Mm-hmm. And so you make this decision, you're going to become an investor. What happens next?
Well, there was a program at Bank of America at the time. It was called Pathways, and they took entrepreneurs, of which I theoretically qualified from the business, and trained them to become financial advisors. So I went through a training process at Bank of America. That's how I first got my licenses to be a financial advisor. But being a financial advisor, and no offense to any of the advisors that are listening to this podcast right now, there still is a lot of sales in being a financial advisor because you're often compensated on your ability to gather assets. And I really wanted to find a way to be an investor and not be compensated for sales because I thought that would give me the opportunity to be as objective, neutral, and client-focused as possible. So then I did the very, 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 very long journey of obtaining my CFA charter and working my way to the family office space, where when you're working as a CIO in a family office, you truly are outside of all sales. You're really on the buy side, and you're advising families from the seat of the family itself.
And the CFA, for anybody that's listening to this, that means you are really, really, really smart. Not many people pass the CFA.
Or stubborn. I was just stubborn. I wasn't smart. I was just stubborn.
I don't know. No, I mean, for my long-term listeners, they know. But I was an advisor, and I was in finance for almost 14 years. Had CFP and all that other stuff. I haven't been in that business, and I've been in media now full time for going on a decade. Time flies when you're having fun here, Sylvia. In theory. But that being said, CFA, no, I want no part of that beast. I remember when they showed me, I'm like, yeah, right, get out of here. I'm like, two different types of people, and I wasn't that one, let's just say. So now, obviously, you have your North Star, so to speak. Like, you know what you want to do. You know the type of work that you want to do, and you're moving on into the family office space as well. Maybe let's talk a little bit more about, like, how you're doing this and specifically what conscious capital means to you, and kind of going beyond that concept of bottom line. Maybe take it a little bit further in your discovery.
Well, this is a long and slow process. This happened over many decades. I'm old. If you look at the journey, one part of it was I had this early exposure to what we call wellness or meditation or mindfulness. And that became an important touchstone for me in my life. Like, I had an early understanding that no matter who you are, if you are a human being on this planet, there's an invitation to ask yourself this sort of essential, timeless question, who am I? And what is my life purpose? These are spiritual questions. These are questions that transcend religion. They're questions that transcend time. And that never left me. So all of those years that I was building that wellness institute and having exposure to different teachers and healers, that really embedded in me the importance of that question in a human lifetime. And then at the same time, I then spent many years understanding the importance of becoming financially literate, and especially as a woman, of becoming financially empowered. And I knew that money was something that didn't need to be separate from this other question of who am I and what is my life purpose. It took a long time, but about 10 years ago, those questions began to weave themselves together. And the most interesting work that I began to do was when I was working with someone as a CIO, as someone who was helping them to figure out how they were going to deploy their capital. I began to ask them at the same time, what is the purpose of your life, and how does the purpose of your life reflect itself in the deployment of this capital? So that combining of those questions really started in my life about 10 years ago. And then that brings us to today, where I'm part of Prime Quadrant, which is a family office consulting platform. I like to say we're like the McKinsey of the family office world, because a lot of people have a reference point for what McKinsey is. But what that means is that we're not selling anything. We're not gathering assets. We don't have that kind of a model. Our model is truly to sit with a family and give them pure advice, whether it be from the perspective of the CIO or the COO or the CFO. A lot of families are using us kind of like a fractionalized family office. And so having this ecosystem that is very expansive of families that we advise, and having a very visionary founder, the founder's name is Mo Litsky. I highly recommend you have him on your show as well. He understood the importance of these deeper questions for the families just as much as I do. And so that's where the Prime process comes in, where we started to develop now these proprietary curriculums to bring these questions to our families so they can not only identify what their personal life purpose is, but also what the family's purpose is, and then translating that into a mission statement or a vision statement for the family, which then can be translated into what we call the IPS, or the investment policy statement. It's connecting those dots that we call the Prime process.
When we think about managing capital with consciousness, and can this give you an edge? Like, are there some other benefits other than the process itself? Like, can this end in a better result?
It depends what you mean by better result. If better result is more money, people at this level, that shouldn't necessarily be the objective. Our founder likes to say that a lot of people, when they've achieved extraordinary success, continue to make a trade that really doesn't make sense, which is they continue to trade their time for ever more money. And so if you're saying, will this process make you richer? That's not the objective. Will this process make you poorer? That's also not the objective. Could this process engender a sense of peace or fulfillment? That is the purpose. And yes, that we can deliver. And why is that important? I don't know about you. You work obviously with a lot of successful entrepreneurs and founders and families that are managing their capital. The number of times that you've heard someone who has extraordinary wealth who's saying to themselves, I don't feel fulfilled. I don't know what to do with myself. I had a successful first chapter and now I'm only 45. I don't know what to do with the rest of my life. What's the point if I've already have success, if I already have money? That's what this is for. It's for that kind of success of knowing what makes you happy and what your contribution to society is.
What are some tips for family offices that are listening to this when it comes to navigating markets or otherwise when it comes to working for their clients?
Well, I think one really easy, actionable item from this conversation is to ask yourself, what is the state of consciousness that you're making some of your investment decisions from? Because that's something we can all relate to. So to really be honest with yourself. If you're chasing after something, we've all had AI FOMO, crypto FOMO. I don't even know what was before the crypto FOMO. But there's these waves,
NFTs,
right? There's these
throwing
waves.
some NFTs or something. I don't know.
I mean, when the NFT one was happening, I was like, I felt like, am I the only one? It was like the emperor who's wearing no clothes, you know, that fable. I was like, am I the only one that thinks this is ridiculous? Why are all these smart people chasing this? Now, look, in the end, these technologies will have use cases. NFT in the end it's just a container of value. It's a way of transacting value. It's just that it was so early and what was inside of the NFT didn't really have any value. And it was like Tulip Mania in Holland. The value did not even match to the price anymore. So, but we have this human tendency to chase after wanting more. And that, for example, would be a moment where as a family office, you can stop and together, like in your investment committee meeting, say, what is our state of consciousness as we're making this decision? Are we feeling overwhelmed? Are we chasing something? Are we exhausted? Are we distracted? Or are we actually in our most centered, calm, and clear state of awareness when we pull the trigger and we decide yes or no on this particular investment? So it's saying that the state of consciousness from which we make a decision matters. That would be one way to put this kind of insight into action.
Yeah, love it. Sylvia, this has been a lot of fun having you on the show today and getting to know a little bit more about your journey and where you're going. Now, this is a lot of fun. That being said, I know you have so much more to give. If people want to follow up, learn more about your work, connect with your team, how do they do that?
Yeah, we will be holding a Prime Process retreat in March. It's going to be held in the Osa Peninsula in Costa Rica. The Osa is an incredible place. It's off the grid. It's in biodiverse, beautiful, virgin, surfing, oceanfront property. And we will be selecting a small group of successful founders and entrepreneurs to take them through the Prime Process. And if you want to learn more about it, you can email me directly at ssolit, S-O-L-I-T, @primequadrant.com, or you can go to my website, which is thesylvia.com, and just send me a message there, and somebody from the team will get back to you.
Amazing. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so that you can connect. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day, bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Sylvia, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Adam.